During the Nintendo DS's lifespan, Disney would publish a whole lot of movie tie-in games among other games under their publishing subsidiary, Disney Interactive Studios. One of those games was something niche called Spectrobes. Do you remember this game? Developed by the Japanese studio Jupiter Studios, it was a science fiction action-adventure creature collector game that was Disney Interactive's first original intellectual property, aka IP, releasing in March of 2007. This was actually the first game I ever got for my DS Lite, and I was so happy about it. I thought this was the coolest game ever. I loved it so much, and I still do. In the game, we play as Roland, a junior officer of the Nanairo Planetary Patrol, and he and his work buddy Gina are tasked with investigating a crashed object on the planet Daichi. From there, we battle mysterious creatures called Crawl, using equally mysterious creatures called Spectrobes who fight alongside us. But what are the Crawl, and what are the Spectrobes? Well, you would have heard me say that this game has a creature collector aspect to it, and automatically thought of Pokémon, and that's for a very good reason. The concept for Spectrobes was presented to Disney by Phil Barlow and Helen Mayer in 2004. They were tasked with creating an anime-style Pokémon Killer. Did they succeed? Either way, Barlow made up the concept of the game on the spot when presenting it to a contact. The game had an interesting development, with the game originally intending to release on the PlayStation 3 and eventually being bought to Buena Vista Games and given to Disney Interactive Studios. Once it was, the concept and designs were severely overhauled, and after 3 years under the previously mentioned Jupiter and Disney, the game was released on the Nintendo DS. And with the incredible stuff we're given, like the world, story, characters, Spectrobes, and more, it's not without its drawbacks. Its very big drawbacks, making it the Pokémon Killer you've never heard of. The game opens up with a cutscene showing us Spectrobes, characters, and portraying the exciting time we're about to have fighting our way through the Crawl before sending us to the title screen. It sounds vigorous and full of energy, preparing us for the adventure that awaits. Moving to the main menu, the music switches up, and I don't want to sit here and talk about the main menu of all things, but this main menu theme is amazing, and I wanted to point that out. I love it so much. It fits the futuristic themed visuals of the menu so well and sounds amazing. It really just pumps you up and makes you feel like you're part of an 80s fitness dance video. You know the one. You'll be hearing music from this game all throughout the video, and none of it disappoints. It's one of the best aspects of the game. So let's begin our adventure. We're shown this futuristic Fudigo Aero landscape of skyscrapers and flying cars. The future we were promised but never got, am I right? This is where we see our protagonist, Roland, and his sidekick, Gina. I won't lie, as a kid, I thought that Roland was a tomboy. Can you blame me? Anyway, if you couldn't tell by the first cutscene, these are heavily compressed and downgraded to fit on the DS, but they still look so cool, especially with that zoom in from the outer reaches of space to the galaxy and to the planet Roland and Gina are on before they gear up and head out to space. We go from the sterile and futuristic city we don't know the name of to the wide expanse of space in the Nanairo system. We can see a bunch of planets that are extremely unique from one another in appearance and role in the galaxy. From the closest to the sun, we have Genshi, a warm and lush jungle and volcanic environment. Daichi, a grassland with massive flat-top mesas tall enough to reach the stratosphere. Kollin, the Earth of Nanairo, full of human life and towering skyscrapers and cities that reach high above the clouds. That looks pretty familiar, right? The planet is also surrounded by 2 artificial rings that serve as shipyards. Nessa, the largest planet in the system that's a large desert full of minerals that play a huge role in strengthening your spectrobes, which we'll get to soon. The planet's ring is sparsely inhabited by people, but most of them live in the planet's underground colony. It's hard to live on the surface of the planet due to the sandstorms. Zeba, a planet that's split in half due to the intense magnetic fields of its two tidally locked moons, Akaboshi and Aoboshi. That's such a cool concept for a planet, but that's strange. There's an anomalous planet far out in the distance with a figure orbiting it. Even more strangely, its rotation looks linked to the sun too. Roland explains that this is the first mission they've been on in a while, and Gina points out that's because Roland doesn't stick to the mission brief, highlighting their witty relationship and setting some of the tone for future dialogue. Their bickering is interrupted by Commander Grant, Roland's superior and the one who gave him and Gina their mission. There's a strange object that crash landed on Daichi from deep space, and they're tasked with locating, investigating, and retrieving the object for further study. Well, seems simple enough, right? Strictly no monkey business, so we head off to Daichi and we see that there's a heavy downpour of rain and a giant crash trail leading through a small hill. The environment is so pretty with the washed out effect the rain gives. Even the rain on the top screen of the DS is so nice and gives a constant smear effect. Going up towards the hill reveals our crashed object, a man in a pod? Next to his pod is a device which perfectly fits around Roland's wrist. Interesting. This device is the Prismod, and we'll be learning all about it very soon. Gina chimes in to see how Roland is going, and man, I can't get enough of this game's music. I'm gonna say that a lot, but it's just so damn good. Something about the music of the DS era and its sound font is just so great. For the most part, it's all just so nostalgic, and it's just taking me back. Anyway, Roland goes to investigate the person stuck inside the pod, observing that he's unconscious. Gina even gives him the stand-in name Mr. X. But then a black vortex appears and beelines it for Roland, attacking him. And here we get the combat controls. Spectrobes can attack independently or together in charge attack mode. You can attack with Roland too and cycle through his different weapons and retreat. So let's see this exciting and action-packed combat that was supposed to kill the Pokemon franchise. Oh no. So, firstly, you can see that this game isn't turn-based like Pokemon, instead opting for real-time combat. That's fine and all, except it's executed, not so greatly. I can see how you're supposed to bait out the Crawl's attacks by dodging and weaving around them while lining up your Spectrobes to attack them, but it's really clunky. Spectrobes usually attack with the click of a button, but sometimes it can open up a command screen, which is even more clunky to use at first. But you can set up a faster charge speed and keep a Spectrobe in place for ranged attacks, which takes a lot of effort. It can have a big payoff if done right, but in my experience, this usually isn't the case. Some Spectrobes even have the ability to let you choose which target to attack, which is pretty good. Regardless, the combat is still a weak aspect of the game, if not the weakest part of it. It's just very meh or average with untapped potential, and that's not good when this is the end result of excavating, awakening, and leveling up your Spectrobes, a core gameplay loop. More on that later. The Spectrobes that appeared out of the Prismod to battle alongside us are Spikon and Zozane, whose designs and attacks are some of the best in the game in my opinion. And I mean, just look at them. Coolness oozes from them. What a terrible way to describe that. Coolness exudes from them, and their attacks have a very good chance to hit multiple enemies, which can't be said for other Spectrobes. Once the fight is over, Roland reports what just happened to the best of his understanding to Gina, making note that those creatures leapt out of his wrist. So Roland and Gina bring everything they found to the basement level of their ship. Mr. X awakes in panic, wondering about his ship, which was obliterated, before explaining who he is. He claims that his name is Aldous, and honestly, this music that goes with Aldous' dialogue is incredible and serious, adding to those tones that his speech has. And what a freaking beast Aldous is. He looks like a war-torn warrior or scientist that's fled from a devastating event, and that devastating event was the complete destruction of the galaxy he came from, the Giordana system. He fled his planet to find help in stopping the Crawl, who he describes as those planet-eating fiends. He unfortunately was too late to save everyone on his home planet and star system. But he's here now, still determined to stop the Crawl, and he wants to use the power of the Spectrobes. Gina exclaims that these are extinct creatures from ancient times and they're nothing but fossils now. Aldous asks if minerals exist in this system, and sure enough, they do, making the Nanero system the origin system of the Spectrobes. He also explains what the Crawl are, being wicked, amoebic-like creatures that devour planets and star systems. Amoebic relates to the word amoeba, a simple organism consisting of only one cell. So they're like that, being simple organisms roaming around in the dubbed black vortexes, attacking whatever they force their way into, and there's a wide variety of Crawl too that look visually different more than anything, except for a few unique cases. Aldous is also baffled that Roland survived the Crawl attack before realizing that he used his Prismod device. Because I'll tell you what, punching these star system devouring creatures doesn't do a whole lot, so obviously that's where the Spectrobes come in. Aldous states that if the Crawl are in Nanero, then the star system is their target to consume. He then asks to borrow power from the ship to prepare Roland for battle with the Crawl to save the Nanero star system. So we need to find Spectro fossils, excavate them, awaken them, power them up with minerals that need to be excavated too to stand any sort of chance. All while interacting with a great cast of characters, collecting key items, and engaging with the story. But let's get into some of the finer details before tackling that story. The Spectrobes are the creature collector part of the game. There are a total of 76 to collect, with 22 of them mainly being obtained through excavation, 44 more through evolution of those excavated Spectrobes, 3 from the game's collectible cards, I'll get to that later, and 7 more are the ultimate life forms, which I'll definitely be talking about later on too. You may look at the number 76 and think to yourself, how could this game kill Pokemon if it had way less creatures to collect? Well, this is gonna sound controversial, but the designs are the one-up on Pokemon. I know, but it's a quality over quantity thing. Let me explain. The Spectrobes that can evolve go from a child to adult and then an evolved form. All of these designs look amazing. I have no bad opinions on any of the Spectrobes designs. They're just so cool looking. I just can't understate that. With every Pokemon generation I've played, there have been so many Pokemon I flat out avoid, and I know many of you have done the same too. In Spectrobes, I don't want to avoid any of them and I want to collect them all. Ever since I first played the game as a kid, collecting them has given me such an accomplished feeling. Now, the child form Spectrobes are meant to be more of the cuter designed creatures since they're younger and not ready for battle, yet we get glimpses of their potential. The adult forms show off their muscle, and you can tell what type of offense they'll have thanks to the designs and descriptions. They also can support one another, boosting each other's stats. You see, you can only have up to 2 Spectrobes out in battle at once, but 4 in reserve in your party dubbed a lineup. These support boosts increase speed, attack, charging speed of your charge meter that makes things go boom, and defense respective of the Spectrobes you have benched. Oh, and then we have the evolved forms, the creme de la crop of Spectrobe design. They're jaw-droppingly incredible looking and so damn imposing. They look powerful and they know it. They own it, and getting these as a kid blew my mind. I had no idea that Spectrobes could get any cooler. 1990s and 2000s fictional creature designs were off the rails, man. I miss it so much. And these are the righteous creatures I'd want fighting for the greater good by my side, 100%. But I hear you saying, why keep a child Spectrobe if it can't fight? Well, these child forms are actually needed to find fossils, indicated by an orange blip, and minerals, indicated by a blue blip, as they're able to detect them in the ground, which you do with the touchscreen or R button. And that's what Aldous tasks us with doing, awakening a fossil so we can search for more fossils and minerals. To do this, we use our new lab system set up by Aldous. This process requires us to speak into the DS microphone at a certain volume indicated by a bracket or bar. Once our voice matches the volume needed to stay in between the brackets, equal to or past the bar for 3 seconds, the Spectrobe awakens in its child form. Aldous gives us a coma pod, so we awaken a Komainu. Each Spectrobe awakened has 1 out of 3 property types: Corona, Aurora, and Flash. You know, red, green, and blue. Each property is strong and weak against one another. Corona is strong against Aurora, but weak against Flash. Flash is strong against Corona, but is weak against Aurora, and Aurora is strong against Flash, but is weak against Corona. Usually, a Spectrobe will be colored similarly to its property type, so it's visually easy to tell what to expect in that regard. But now, we have a child Spectrobe, but how do we strengthen it, turning it into an adult and evolve it beyond that too? Well, battling Kroll should give us a lot of experience for our Spectrobes, right? Right?
No.
Not only is the combat average at best, but it yields no experience, also known as Minergy, for your Spectrobes, just a decent amount of Gura, the currency of the game. That's the point of these fights, to earn money to buy roll and gear upgrades, healing items, and excavation tools. But you can't do any of that properly if your Spectrobes are weak, and it feels really satisfying decimating the Kroll with your Spectrobes. But how can you get to that point? Through the intended way, minerals. This is the bread and butter of powering up your Spectrobes. You get yourself some minerals, throw your Spectrobes into incubators, and feed them your minerals. Most planets and areas on them will have minerals and fossils to excavate. We tap away at the screen, usually going a few feet underground before we get to our mineral. Once here, we use the drill tools to dig it up and use the blower manually or blow into the DS's mic to blow away dust to help successfully excavate it. After the last talk with Aldous, we're free to roam Daichi and explore the place. Daichi is made up of a plain with marble-like rocks. We first saw it during a rainstorm, but now it's so beautiful, lush, and vibrant. Going forward from the ship leads to one of the previously mentioned flat-top mesas that are found on the planet, and going the other way where we found Aldous leads to a dead end. Both ways lead to fossils and minerals to dig up, and this is where I want to introduce excavation routes. The one on Daichi is my favorite mineral gathering route I took as a kid, doing it over and over again, having a blast. It's so nostalgic to be doing it again as well. It's just so relaxing, but not as efficient as other routes due to the better minerals you can find elsewhere. But I still think it's worth it thanks to the previously mentioned relaxation, and I think that's because of the environment, the path up the mountain itself, and the music accompanying it. It's just so good, and yes, that means that minerals and fossils have a set spawn. It's also pretty easy to avoid the Kroll during this process too, since you can run faster than they can move. We continue up and up the mesa until we get to a sign warning us of the dangers inside the mountain. Ominous. And that's also where the route ends. So you go back inside the ship, which resets the spawns of minerals, and then you go at it again. I briefly mentioned that other tools can be bought for excavation as well. The planet Kollin, where we saw Roland and Gina get ready for their mission in the starting cutscene, is where you can buy these. You start off with 2 drills and a smaller third in reserve. Each one excavates at different intensities to one another, with the obvious drawback being damaging what you're excavating at higher intensities. So no need to buy any drills. So the first item on our list is a recovery tool that slightly fixes damages caused while excavating, but has 4 uses before needing to be replaced. There's a sonic tool that excavates things gently using sound waves thanks to the use of the DS's microphone.
You like that?
A blast tool that excavates in one shot, but has a high chance of blowing up what's in the ground. That chance goes down the higher your excavation level is. Solvent Liquid, which dissolves the ground and what you're excavating, and the Giga Tool, which automatically excavates what's in the ground like the Blast Tool, but is guaranteed to excavate something if you've already excavated the item before. However, if you haven't, your chances of success are tied to how much percent of the object is excavated. That's cool and all, and I brought up an excavation level a few times just now as well. This levels up after a certain amount of XP is collected from successful excavations. The higher the level, which maxes out at 6, the faster you can excavate and the less damage you do to whatever you're excavating, which is very helpful for obtaining custom parts. But, you know, just because you're a pro with a high mining level, it doesn't mean that you're invulnerable to damaging what you're excavating. The main cause for damage is by hitting the object you're excavating rather than the dirt on top of it or surrounding it. So then, a damage meter will build up and it'll break, meaning you fail the excavation. This also applies to fossils, where getting a perfect excavation, meaning not damaging the fossil at all, lands you a custom part you can attach onto your Spectrobe to give it a more unique look and species name. Collecting all of the Spectrobes, their custom parts, and having one of each of their custom colors, which I haven't mentioned yet, is one hell of a journey. Having minimal damage on a fossil is such a painful process that takes a lot of concentration and patience tapping away at the DS screen, but it can sort of be brute force by swiping at the screen really fast while excavating the fossil, at least in my experience. Quickly going back to minerals, each of these upgrade one or multiple Spectrobe stats. These are their HP, attack, or defense. Crescent-shaped minerals upgrade HP, triangular ones upgrade attack, and rectangular ones upgrade defense. They also have a general rarity system that goes as yellow, green, pink, and then purple, giving 8, 16, 24, and 32 Minergy to a stat to level it up respectively. There are exceptions to the rule, with more unique and special minerals that bump up one stat at the detriment of the progress of leveling up another. Some more rarer ones that upgrade all stats, can be sold for a good price, can force the Spectrobe to evolve, and can change their color palette, with some of these latter minerals only being available after you finish the game. Honestly, it's best to feed your Spectrobes individually despite having 2 spots in the incubators, since they'll both rush for the food and it can get difficult to upgrade the stats you want, especially since you can only throw in a max of 5 minerals before having to select more. But if you place food on top of each other, the first Spectrobe to get to it will pretty much just hog the food. The other will try to get to it, but will simply just turn back. In saying that, having Spectrobes spend time together in incubators makes them friends, making their charged combo attack do more damage. They'll need to hit certain levels and spend a certain amount of time in an incubator to evolve too, so keeping them together or separated has its perks. There's also one other object that you can excavate from the ground. Cubes. These are very important to excavate as you go from planet to planet, and they appear on the ground as a rainbow blip. There's a total of 20 of them that can be excavated and given to Aldous. Their names correlate with the first 20 letters of the Greek alphabet, and they all contain important information on the Spectrobes, a lot of which I've already told you about, like how to train Spectrobes, their properties, custom parts, etc. Once a cube is given to Aldous, he'll explain what's inscribed in them and he'll store them so you can look at them later. Some of these even unlock special features that are key to the whole Spectrobes experience. Cube 5, Epsilon, unlocks the ability to equip custom parts in the incubators. Cube 6, Zeta, unlocks the ability to evolve Spectrobes into their final evolved forms. Cube 9, Iota, unlocks the terrain menu for the incubators, allowing you to match the terrain with your Spectrobes' properties. They get all cheery and happy in their terrain and upset in the one they're weak to. Each terrain is so beautiful and surreal that I could get lost in the awe of staring at it as my Spectrobes bop around. It really makes you wonder just how advanced this technology is and how it was brought about in the first place. Cube 17, Ro, unlocks the Color Awakening menu for fossils to get their other custom colors. Cube 18, Sigma, unlocks the multiplayer DS wireless function to battle against other players or trade Spectrobes with them. Cube 19, Duff unlocks the Wi-Fi connection functions, which include a welcome package and weekly download points to download items, to download Spectrobes, and quote-unquote other cool stuff. One Spectrobe that was exclusive to the Wi-Fi connection was Thundora, an evolved Corona Spectrobe with no pre-evolutions. Sadly, I never got to play with these wireless and Wi-Fi functions, but they look and sound awesome. I'm kinda jealous, especially since DS's Wi-Fi capabilities were shut down in 2014, and I don't have any friends to use the wireless functions with. And finally, we have Cube 20, Ipsilo, which unlocks the card input machine. What could that be? There's also 2 extra cubes obtained during the story called the Relic Crystal and Neo Crystal that allows you to obtain the Flame Geo and the other Geos respectively. What could they be? There's 7 Geos, so maybe that's a hint to what they are. But let's go back a little bit and take a look at the card reader because this is quite a unique feature the game offers. Just like with Pokemon, Spectrobes has cards attached to the IP. These weren't cards you would battle other people with, they were more so for collecting, trading, and most importantly, using in-game for some fun rewards. Firstly, you have to place your card on top of your DS touchscreen and then tap in the holes on the card in the right order to claim what's on the card. The game would come with a few of these cards, but a collector's edition would release in November of the same year the original came out that would have quote-unquote all 38 code input cards inside with the game, despite there being a total of 45. 12 of these are Windora and Villa Chroma, their custom colors and Windora's custom parts. Just like Thundora, these are evolved Spectrobes, with Windora being its own thing and Villa Chroma being a rare and unique mutant version of the Villanox Spectrobe. The biggest difference in the two being the metallic shelling on Villa Chroma. 20 more of the cards are custom color Spectrobes and their parts, 6 are those Geos I previously mentioned, 4 are cubes, Yota, Ro, Sigma, and Duff, and the other 3 are rare minerals, the Sapphire, Emerald, and Ruby. All of the cards with Spectrobes on them actually give you the Spectrobe itself with its custom color and part at level 1, which is neat. These cards can only be used a few times too, or else you'd have people spamming minerals, with the Ruby being one of the best ones in the game. I really like this idea of collecting cards, trading, and using them in the game for rewards and fast-tracking progress, be it small. In another universe, I could have seen a plethora of kids trading and collecting cards to get as much out of the game as possible. I still wish there were more cards. I think having twice or triple the amount and a TCG surrounding the cards with a unique aspect to them could have helped with things too. That's one of the big things about Pokemon and being in competition with them, you have to be more than just the games. But for what we're given, it's still solid, and have no fear. If you don't have the cards, you can look up guides online that'll tell you where to tap on the DS screen and in what order to get your rewards. But let's get back to the story of the game. In this section, I'll be highlighting the planets, characters, and whatnot that we come across too. After we finish up, Commander Grant calls Roland and Gina about the whereabouts of their mission report. Oops, Gina forgot to transmit it. Hahaha. These two are being set up as the typical young, goofy, and optimistic rookies archetype, and it's a blast to witness. But there's no time for goofing around though. It's time to set off for the NPP HQ on Kollin and file our report. Everything is explained to the commander with the assistance of Gina and Aldous, and we're given our new orders to investigate the crawl and their black vortexes, which actually look more purple than anything, but anyway, we're off to the planet Genshi to go to the famous fossil research lab and re-establish contact with Professor Wright. Black vortexes being seen on the planet doesn't bode well, so off we go. But before we can, we're given permission to take weapons. Apparently, the star system is so peaceful that police don't need to carry weapons? Now that's so Fruitigo Aero, am I right? I mean, this guy even states that it's been a while since we got a serious case, so carrying weapons is weird. Holy moly, and what weapons do we get? We start off equipped with a glove, and now we get a sword and a blaster that tickle the enemies more than anything. Great! In fairness, gloves knock back enemies, swords stun them, and blasters ignore the enemy's defense stat to deal damage. You can stun lock enemies easily with the melee weapons, which is really fun to do. It's cool that weapons are color coordinated to represent the Corona, Flash, and Aurora properties as well. Landing on the planet, we can already see the vast contrast visually to Daiichi. After talking to some scientists, we find out that Professor Wright was excavating fossils in the forest and never came back. So off we go, and the Crawl are at a similar strength to the ones fought on Daiichi, so it's a lovely and brisk walk to Professor Wright through the jungle collecting minerals and fossils. The music here is groovy too. Once we find Professor Wright, we see that he's surrounded by black vortexes and we have to battle a few Crawl to save him. This is where Roland says his catchphrase, ikuze, which is let's go in Japanese, and it's quite catchy. I don't know why it's making me laugh as well though, I don't know, it's just literally me. This fight is also pretty easy since the Crawl we verse are nothing special, and when that's finished up, we take Wright back to his lab and he explains that he found a rare Spectrobes fossil and then got himself into trouble. He goes further into explaining that rare Spectrobes can be found here and on other planets. And you have to be careful when excavating fossils if you want their custom parts, which we already know. So he gives us the fossil as a thanks, and it's an owl pod. Back to the ship now, and the captain is updated on the situation, and we're told to go to Nessa and find a man called Cyrus who'll inform us of the Crawl sightings on the planet. So off we go to Nessa's colony. It's so cool and futuristic down here, and we can see that the sandstorms outside are brutal. The colonists down here talk of the Crawl and the ruins on the far side of the planet. Interesting. There's also a merchant down here who will buy your minerals and cubes. The only things worth selling to him are cubes you don't need or rare minerals, with the latter selling for a whole lot of Gura, making it the best way to get money in the game. That makes battling the Crawl even more pointless. We make our way to Cyrus and he explains that he can't get into the planet's ruins because of the Crawl, and he wants us to fight through them to get an item from the ruins. A keystone. Sounds mysterious, right? Roland reckons helping treasure hunters out is a waste of NPP resources, but he does a full-on 180 once he's bribed with a rare cube in return for his efforts. That's straight up awesome sauce. And with that, we're off to the ruins that are on Area 3 of the planet. You would have noticed that anytime I traveled to a planet, it would be to Area 1 of that said planet. That's because some planets have multiple areas, but I'm skipping Area 2 for now. I'll get to that damned hellhole soon enough. In Area 3, we're met with a cool and mysterious soundtrack to match the environment. I really love the look of the dark side of this planet too. Now this is where the game's difficulty spikes. The Crawl here are so strong compared to what we've seen on Daiichi and Genshi. They kicked my ass a few times, which sent me back to the ship. That's nothing a bit of grinding can't fix, but we only have access to lower grade minerals, so it's a bit of a chore. Moving back to the ruins, we enter it and the whole look of everything changes. The sand in here isn't bathed in the glow of the lunar, but rather the lighting of the ancient structures and technology of the ruins. Was there some sort of ancient civilization that utilized these ruins for something? We can't really gather much of those answers here, but it's mysterious nonetheless. As we continue through the ruins, we'll eventually go back outside and use a teleporter to get inside what we believe to be more ruins where the keystone is. It's blue in color and sits in a slot in the ground. Weirdly enough, there's two more slots, a green and red one that sit empty. Blue, green, and red, eh? Roland takes the keystone and updates Gina on the situation, noting that this area of the ruins looks like a master control room. Gina responds by telling him the theory scientists have that they believe the place is an ancient spacecraft. The plot thickens. And can I just say, Gina's theme is so damn good and so energetic. Every time I hear it, I just feel like jamming to it. From here, the exchange with Cyrus is made and both parties are happy despite Cyrus almost swindling Roland. He gives us the Zeta Cube, which, if you remember, allows us to evolve Spectrobes to their evolved forms past their adult ones. That's awesome. Now we can create an unstoppable and monstrous force to beat the Crawl. But Kollin and the NPP HQ are under attack by the Crawl and we have to get there ASAP to help fight them off. All around the outside of the building and inside are littered with Crawl. We fight our way to the captain's room where we find him face to face with a unique looking Crawl. This boss battle is tough and can easily beat Roland down, resulting in a defeat which happened to me a few times. The boss, Giforma, has two Gyreal Crawl shoot projectiles at you while he charges at you if you're far away and swings at you if you're close. Just keep rolling away from Gyforma at all costs. What's funny is that if you lose the battle, the commander notices and asks if you're alright before you go at it again, which I think is cool. I can't confirm if this also happens during the fight on Genshi or other boss battles, but I'm sure something similar would. After we save the commander, shit gets serious again and he calls for Roland to get Gina and Aldous for a meeting with a stern facial expression. So they discuss a strategy to repel the Crawl spawns while Roland takes a rest to talk to some people around the HQ. And what do you know? They tell him that the museum has reopened. Oh my goodness, Ikuze. Wow. This museum is so small. It has a few minerals on display you can have a look at and a green stone at the back of the museum. It looks an awful lot like the blue keystone we've already found. Here is where we can find Webster, the curator of the museum. He asks if Roland is the one who saved everyone and he humbly says it was an effort by all. What can I say? He's got heart. Webster states that the museum is open because renovations are done, and the green keystone which was found in the ruins of Nessa is the museum's pride. He mentions a Professor Kate who believes that the gem was part of an interstellar spacecraft, one that was capable enough of reaching Himuro and Mido, the distant 6th and 7th planets. But hey, that's just a theory, right? Gina calls us back to the commander's room and we're briefed on what was discussed. Aldous confirms that what we fought was a leader-type Crawl, a Villican agent, a scout for the Crawl, meaning that the Crawl have definitely targeted the Nanairo system, which means that they'll try to establish a nest in the system, so we have to go and find that nest. To get some answers and help out the star system, we need to go to Zeba, the planet with 2 moons, to find the previously mentioned Professor Kate and defeat some more Crawl. Gina coats the ship with a demagnetizing coat so the gang can fly to Zeba. But before we go there, let's head back to Nessa and check out Area 2. This place has one significant thing here, a big black vortex, and what this is and what it signifies is hell itself. Entering the vortex starts round-based fights. It goes on and on and on. It's so mind-numbingly boring because it's not challenging or stimulating thanks to the lackluster combat. And once you've completed the first fight, the rest of them are the same. All 30 of them. This sucked, but I did it to prove that I'm capable of hitting my head against a wall until I bust through it, and oh boy, did I bust. For my efforts, I was rewarded with an evolved mineral that instantly evolves a Spectrobe in the incubator, which is useful for if you want to evolve them quickly. I'm sure we'll never have to do that again. Anyway, now we're off to Zeba, but oh no! The magnetic field is far stronger than expected thanks to Zeba's moons orbiting faster than usual, so despite the issues, we land on the planet safe enough and make our way to Kate. Zeba is a rocky landscape with scientific infrastructure here and there. The music somehow sounds rocky as well. Here we fight our way through more Crawl like we always do to get to our objective, and once we reach Kate and talk to her, we get this soft and cutesy music that plays. She's detected some sort of shadow between the 2 moons that's messing with their orbit, and she gives Roland a demag unit to be able to fly around the planet and onto the moons, which is very convenient. So we're off to the moons to see which one holds this shadow so that the moon's orbits can go back to normal, and so Professor Kate can go back to her research as well. Off to Akaboshi, the maroon moon with the powerful North Pole magnetic field. The moon has a nice red hue to it and its sky, and we can even see Zeba from here. It's so pretty, but there are no shadows here. So off to Alboshi then, the cobalt moon with the powerful South Pole magnetic field. We're met with a nice blue hue on it and its sky, and we're able to see Zeba from here as well, obviously. It's just so pretty, and this is where we find our shadow, another leader Crawl, Skessa. It and its lackeys, Shankar and Skiva, can suck it. For the life of me, I can't even recount what they do. I think they just float around the battlefield and knock into you for the most part. They suck, and what sucks even more is Skiva itself. When this guy isn't spinning around like a Beyblade, it goes in circles around the arena and then does these stupid spin moves that make it so hard to hit. So if you have any Spectrobes with terrible moves like this dingus, then you're gonna have a bad time. And oh boy, did I have a bad time, because making an attack with the leftmost Spectrobe is crucial for hitting it when it circles around the left side because it moves anti-clockwise. That's anti-clockwise around the arena. When it gets to the right side, you're attacking blind since it's off-screen, southeast of Rollin. Once that abomination is defeated, the orbits of the moons go back to normal, but still no nest to be found, so it's time to head back to the ship and report to the commander. We're told that the homeboys back on Kollin have reported that the 7th planet in the system, Medo, has disappeared. How is this possible? Well, they believe that the Crawl have engulfed the planet in their black vortexes and that planet is their nest. But there's only one problem. Manned spacecrafts don't have the technology to fly out that far. No! If only there was something to help us with this. Lucky for us, Professor Kate joins the call. She tells Roland to meet her on Zeba to see her solution. How she bypassed police security is unknown, but once we get to her, she tells us to take her red keystone to the ruins on Nessa to activate the ancient intergalactic spaceship. Yes, that's right, the same one we've been referencing over and over again. It'll get the gang to Medo. But we need to go to the museum on Kollin to get the green keystone, the museum's pride. So we talked to Webster about it, and even though he doesn't want to do it, he simply can't refuse a request from Professor Kate. What kind of blackmail does she hold over this guy? Either way, he gives us the green keystone, and now it's time to set out with 2 keystones in hand. In the ruins, Roland goes to insert the keystones and a massive rumbling occurs. It's almost like we need a 3rd keystone for the blue slot. Where could it be? Oh, that's right, with Cyrus. Back to the colony yet again. Roland bargains with the treasure hunter. For some reason. He agrees to find the rare diamond mineral from Daiichi's tabletop mountains. The same ones that have that oppressive aurora on them that hurt anyone or anything not resistant to them. Good one, Roland. Honestly, I have no idea why he doesn't just use his connections with the NPP to take the keystone from Cyrus and then compensate him through the NPP, or at least negotiate something else. Surely Cyrus could see the seriousness and time dependency of the situation, but I guess this is just a show of Roland's good and honest nature, as naive as it might be. Or maybe I'm just naive. But anyway, we're off to Daiichi again. But hold on just a moment, we need a way to not be obliterated by the mountain's aurora. Aurora? Well, that's a property and it's weak to corona. Luckily for us, there are specific suits that mitigate the damage from Crawl that share the same property of the suit. The corona suit completely negates the auroras, and so do the corona spectrobes. So we chuck on the suit, fail to bring a whole party of corona spectrobes, and watch a lot of our team suffer as we move past the danger sign on Daiichi and into the mountain. It's a fairly straightforward run up along paths and tree roots as the aurora pours down on us. It works exactly like how poison works in Pokemon outside of battles, except it always leaves Roland and the Spectrobes on 1 health if they aren't immune to it. Also, the only Crawl we find here are of course the Corona type. Flash Spectrobes make quick work of them, so if you want to, you can heal them before going into battle so they're at full or almost full health. And if you're a beast like me, you'll do the same thing before approaching the leader Crawl at the top of the mountain, Tronkos. What an unfortunate name. It has an attack similar to Skiva where it spins around like a Beyblade, but also has some funky tentacle fire attacks or something. I killed it in like 30 seconds flat. But now we can go and find the diamond, which is right in the middle of this area. It's beautiful and it shines so nicely. After excavating the diamond, we go back to Cyrus and give it to him. But before we do, we can take a look at the landscape and wow. This looks really nice and fits the mysterious and magical music that accompanies the mountain and the horizon. What lies beyond that we haven't explored or can't explore? What other secrets about the Spectrobes can we find? And what about the Nanairo system? Getting back to Cyrus, he's in disbelief that we even found the diamond and lived to bring it back. He gives us the blue keystone and froths over the diamond. Another black market trade is successful, and all we have to do now is insert that blue keystone. But we're met with the actual source of the rumbling. The leader Kroll, Kakasa, and its goons Clutch and Clench. What are these names, man? And look, I'll be honest, I have no idea what this leader even does. I was able to just wail on it before it could really do anything, but as always, you should take out the Kakasa's ads first since they can heal. We steamroll through it and now we have a new problem. The control avionics are totally smashed, which means that inserting the keystone and igniting the ship would prove to be fatal. So we get back to our ship, attach it to the ruins, insert the keystone, and... Holy moly, the ruins really were an ancient ship, and look at it. It's beautiful and has such a cool design. I mean, it's a giant pyramid with wings. How could it not be cool? So now we're off to Mido, but it's not that easy. There's no way to safely land on the planet. Luckily, the ice planet Himuro isn't too far away from here and it's not wildly infested by Kroll. The reason being because they hate light, and their black vortexes are a way to give them their ideal environment devoid of said light. And since this planet is mostly ice, all it does is reflect light. And this place is so damn pretty, and is full of ancient technology, and we can see Mido from here engulfed in the Kroll, looming over us like the giant threat it is. Traveling through the ice planet presents us with an icy surface that looks to make excavations a bit more difficult in the way of having to drill through tough ice we can slide around, and a simple door opening puzzle which reveals an ancient mechanical device deep inside of it. So this planet is man-made with the intention of helping people get onto Mido. The ancient people were ultra prepared for a Kroll invasion, even down to the finer details of where they would nest. Once we find the mechanical device, we can use it to rotate the planet and direct light from the sun to Mido, which gives us a direct route straight to the planet. Ikuze, am I right? But there's one more thing we can do, or what I think we have to do. Roland finds a relic crystal, and Aldous explains that it contains information on the methods needed to obtain the ultimate life form Spectrobes, the final stage of their evolution. The key to this is found not by evolving them, but in a gem called a Geo. The relic crystal says that we can find the fire Geo on top of the highest mountain on Genshi. We can go and grab it or just head straight to Mido. It would be wise if we went and got it, so off we go to Genshi, Area 2 this time, and this is where we see the volcanic environment. And if it wasn't obvious, these late game areas hold some really good minerals for strengthening Spectrobes, so you can really beef your party up before the final boss fight. I love this place visually, and the music is just so damn funky. Like the crystal said, we have to make our way to the highest mountain, and to do so, it parts seas of lava for us so we can get there, which is pretty cool. And so we find it in the middle of an emptied volcano, and these geos are so damn awesome. Today's words are cool and awesome because so much of this game is. Geos act like Final Fantasy VII summons, where they'll do a big attack and peace out afterwards. This attack is really powerful and makes the evolved Spectrobes you have look like babies compared to them. They even have a cool cutscene that plays when they attack, and to do so, you need to charge the charge meter to 3 out of 4 bars. It's so damn cool. Now we're ready for Meadow. This planet's a dark wasteland with a sickly purple sky and epic music that perfectly encapsulates the stakes. Do we want the rest of the star system to look like this? No, we have to save it. To get to the final boss, we have to go through holes in the ground and more ancient ruins. Things start to get a bit alien-like too, with mushrooms and what looks like growths appearing around the planet underground. Spores start appearing and we get this beautiful vista of the horizon. We can see what looks to be a warm light hitting the planet and growths coming out of the ground. It's just so beautiful. The Kroll invasion was already so alien, but this is on a whole other level. And then we get to the end of our journey. This mushroom thing seems to be emitting the spores, and then we're met with a Kroll leader. The Kroll leader, Otorso and its lackeys, Orbux and Orbix. So, fire up the Geo. It seems that it broke a barrier of some kind, so it's time to beat it down, which is a chore because Orbux and Orbix constantly shoot out a wave that pushes us away from Otorso. Having a system in place to swap Spectrobes mid-battle would have been nice for situations like these where you need ranged attacks, but shooting your blaster and spamming charged combo attacks seem to do the job as well. Just very, very slowly. But the giant mushroom shooting out spores actually heals things the spores touches. So our torso is coming back, but we can't have that happen, so we need to beat down this native fungus. And that's also why the Kroll chose this planet as their nest, because they can heal up here by this mushroom. Kroll even spawned during the fight to protect it. Regardless, it's so easy to take down, and we do, but a Kroll comes at us and we have to fight it. Is it Otorso? It's been revived and we have to fight it again as Goblada. And how do you think it went down? It was a cakewalk. The final boss of the game, the leader of the Kroll, and all it does is walk about and swing slowly. After taking enough of its health down, it gains a shield you need to smash through with the Fire Geo. So when I said I think we should get the Fire Geo, I really meant it, because if you don't have it, you'll need to purposefully lose or turn off your DS. Once it's defeated, that's it. The black vortexes start disappearing from Meadow and the planet becomes unstable thanks to the death of the mushroom, Xelis. Roland flies back to the ship and the gang breathe a sigh of relief and congratulate each other on their team effort while a softer version of the NPP HQ's theme plays. Roland did a lot of the heavy lifting, but he points out everyone else's efforts and how much they mattered. He's such a likable character. The whole cast of characters are. The commander calls Roland for a status report. He gives him the rundown and we get one last ikuze before we get an epic version of the main menu theme and a cool looking credits screen. After finishing the game, I felt really inspired and happy. It was so nice to experience this game again and to experience a story that inspires. The characters really make that happen and it's so refreshing. I've experienced enough games that try to muddy the waters of morality or try to make me feel sympathetic for the villains. This is just a classic, the good guys fight to defeat evil plot that I love so much. Despite the game's flaws, I think it's solid overall, and it doesn't end here. No, there's a post-game. The game saves our progress on Meadow so we can battle the final boss over and over again. We can also go to Commander Grant and he'll tell us that 6 black vortexes have appeared all over the star system. This sucks. Do you remember the 30-round vortex I defeated for an evolved mineral? That was painful to do, but imagine doing it for 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, and 70 again. Imagine it, and only imagine it like me because I got a few rounds in and gave up. It's just not worth it. Luckily for us, the rewards for completing them can be obtained thanks to the card scanner. And the rewards are the other 6 geos. Yes, that's right, the ultimate lifeform Spectrobes I mentioned near the start of the video are the geos, in case that wasn't obvious. They all have their own cutscenes and damage numbers too, and they're all so awesome and incredible looking. Please just let me play them all for you. Aren't they all so cool? So there's a total of 7 of them, just like there are 7 planets and 7 colors emitting from the system's sun. Isn't that neat? It all adds to the mystery of the Spectrobes and even the Crawl, the Nairo, and what could lie beyond. We also have new Spectrobe fossils and minerals that spawn now. These all spawn on different planets and in the same spots. However, they're not always guaranteed to spawn, so you might have to go back to your ship every now and again to get what you want to spawn, especially if you want a specific mineral or to catch them all. Collect all of the Spectrobes. These new minerals you can find are powerful, either strengthening a whole stat at the detriment of another's level up progression or strengthening them all equally. The ones that strengthen everything sell for a lot, so if you want more Gura, that's your post-game method right there. Especially if you can find the infamous gold mineral. So is this it for Spectrobes? Well, the series hasn't seen anything since 2009, but it didn't die quietly, it went out fighting. Firstly, we have 2 other games in the series, Spectrobes Beyond the Portals for the DS and Spectrobes Origins for the Wii. Beyond the Portals and Origins are seen as the better games that improve on established features. They also included new Spectrobes, characters, star systems, mechanics, and new stories. I've only played Beyond the Portals very briefly, and I've never played Origins, so I have no proper opinions on them, but maybe I could cover them like I covered Spectrobes in the future. There were also 4 novels made, with one of them being published but never released. There were 14 webisodes too, which were online videos. They covered the first 2 games in the series with some differences and were made to promote those games and were re-released to promote Origins when it came out. You can easily find these online if you want to take a look at the novels or webisodes for yourself too. And finally, there's a wrap. Oh, that's right. Pokemon did it, so Disney needed to, and it was called the Spectrobes Roll Call. This really is a product of its time. There's nothing catchy about it either. It just sounds like I'm being politely notified on the Spectrobes until this dude barges in and starts yelling about it. Stuff like this can be so cool, but it has no soul. Where's the soul? They clearly tried to make it sound cool, but compared to the poker rap, it sadly didn't even come close. And that's been Spectrobes, the Pokemon Killer you've never heard of. Probably. I understand that despite the game and series being niche, there was and still is a fanbase out there that enjoys the IP and remembers it for what it was, and what it all had to offer. But will there be a future for the Spectrobes series? Probably not. Since it's been so long, I can only really see a reboot of the series, and I wouldn't trust Disney at all with doing something like that. But the memories we've made will continue on, and so that brings us to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I want to talk about more of these older DS and even Wii era games, so if you think you'd like that style of content, let me know. As always, leave a like, subscribe for more, and comment down below your thoughts on the video and Spectrobes. I'd be curious to hear what you have to say. And we can't forget about our paid patrons. You guys are absolute legends, and I can't thank you enough for your contributions. And I'll catch ya in the next one.